Warning, the following audio has a lot of cursing.
So yeah, that's a big safety one. And then for me personally, dead rags, the number 2 biggest safety thing in the world, even over face pro. Because
I know I'm bad.
how are you going to stop overshooting if you don't have a freaking dead rag?
Damn, you got 4 in that.
Or what?
Kill rags.
Or I have 4 of them and I can't find any of them.
Yeah.
I can never find them.
Yeah, it's pretty much one or the other. You either have them all with you, or you have none of them.
I have like 4
easier.
barrel condoms.
Yeah.
I think don't know where they came from.
I feel like it's easier in outdoor to pull a kill rag because in indoor if you get shot, a lot of times something could be kneeling or like you can even be like on the ground like tucked behind some cover even indoors, but you still have like you're just going back to usually a short distance to your respawn. So people are like, oh, I just won't pull my kill rag because then I got to put it back in or pull it back out or whatever. But I mean, kill rags outdoors, I think, are much more important. I'm not going to deny them in indoors either, but you have to make it evident that you're clearly out.
Yeah.
And dead rags are, like, the best way to do that. And, I mean, a lot of people, what I do, I mean, I wear the boonie, and if I have to walk a long distance, I just tuck it in one of the loops in the thing, and it stays there. And
yeah.
Like, all right, people will see that, no big deal.
Yeah, no, it's been really hard, especially with a lot of players who either don't bring it or don't feel like using it, and then sticking your hand up in the air and all this other crap, and it's just like in the heat of the moment, your adrenaline's pumping. Seeing a red rag waving in the air and you look like an idiot is the only thing that's going to break that state of mind you're in. I mean, recreational all the way to milsim, especially milsim. Milsim. You guys know I do support, and you know me, I'm kind of a pacifist. I don't really like to overshoot ever, but once you get into that moment, you have to be willing to keep firing because you don't know if you've actually hit someone until the marker goes up. Thankfully in Milsim, they support us, and most of the time they hand you your entry ribbon with a dead rag most of the time. And for WMIA, now I've been going and getting shop rags, which are all red, and I can hand them out. It's not expensive at all because I'm willing to do that because I'd rather have the most safe, fun experience in the world over you and your inconvenience of not wanting to pull out the rag. Well, your inconvenience is mine, Mr. Kyle. I have my dig rig, and then I have to give you mine.
You just stockpile with 50 of them.
I do. I don't know where. I do somewhere. I don't know where.
It's probably with your hat.
It probably is with my hat.
Right next to that tier 1 patch.
Why do you think I bought this one? Yeah, I probably.
You know what? It's probably with Ethan's, actually. It's probably still in the hotel room behind the dresser with his patch.
It was in my pocket, which means that when I put my hand in my pocket to get something, when I pulled my hands out, it fell out. It was in the parking lot, and someone probably picked it up.
Hands in your pockets. Looking like a true officer.
Yes. They were there. Why not use them?
I know. I really want Mattis to say that one time. I want him to say it like just.
There's pictures of him with his hand.
I know, but I want to say it.
And like the army
sergeant's
sergeant
going to tell him no.
And the sergeant.
Not me.
Well, the sergeant of the majors had his hand in his pockets in pictures too. I love it.
Yeah, it's
great.
It's like he's at the meeting for the new uniforms. They're like, all right, guys, if we're gonna have pockets, we're going to use them.
Oh,
what's the point?
Did I tell you that I got transferred to our heavy weapons company?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm now in charge of all the big out-armor Humvees with the toes and the 50s and stuff. And they're heated, so I don't need to have my hands in my pockets anymore because when it's cold, I just sit in my truck.
Oh, there you go.
That's always wrong because we don't pay for fuel.
Yeah.
Thank you all for paying for my fuel to stay warm during the winter.
Yeah, on a training base. Yeah, great.
Hey, dude, we slept outside last week, or 2 weekends ago. Went to bed and it was 32. Woke up in my tent at 2:30 and it was 30 degrees. I couldn't feel my feet and I could hear snow hitting my tent. I was very upset.
Then do the realistic thing of overseas and you just sleep under the engine bay because it's so warm for most of the night? No?
Because we're not in Alaska.
So?
It's not like 20 below all the time.
No, would you stay nice and Next, I'm going to talk about fields in the airsoft community. You have private fields, local fields, special locations, and then you have the full-on military training bases. Private fields I consider pretty much every single backyard game where they're not really posting on Facebook. It's usually word of mouth and, hey, let's all get together on Saturday and whatever. Do you feel that can be harmful? Because I've seen a lot of cringy video of guys, because they're a private field, that this is airsoft, and then they're not having engagement limits, and they're all doing full auto on each other at point blank, and they're using the shot glasses. Do you think, because it's a private field, guys like me as coordinators should just not pay attention, or do you think we should actually have a vocal voice against it, or just say, it's your land, do what you want? Because at what point do you actually say it harms the community?
When people stop coming to play.
When kids
it's a little too late. Some people have this as a business.
I mean, to the point when people start getting hurt needlessly.
Yeah.
Because they're not wearing the right protective equipment.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, we played airsoft in college.
Yeah.
In the dorms.
No, I've heard your stories.
Yeah.
Inappropriate stories.
Before I even got you into it, I mean, we walk around like this far away with, I think we wore safety glasses and like just the Walmart springers, and just like shooting everybody. I mean, you just didn't care.
Yeah, I remember.
Then you look at it today, it's like, oh my god, I would
like,
shot.
how do I have my eyes or my teeth? Like they're so close. Yeah. So, but it's just, I don't know. If it's getting to that point, I think coordinators should regularly kind of do little PSAs on it. But that's also their Wheaties, it's not yours.
Right.
So don't be trying to dig in and manage their shit.
Yeah.
And not you, just in general, just as facilitators of events.
No,
Just
because
kind
we
of
all know
PSAs,
plenty of Facebook pages
reminder.
with moderator Nazis
Yeah, well,
that
yeah.
try to define the airsoft community, even though it's one person representing the thousands of players.
In the entire state. Anyway, that's
You know?
a can of worms.
Don't worry, that's not on here. Actually, it sort of is. Keep going.
Anywho. Local fields.
Yeah, local fields. So that's basically what WMIA does, what NOVA does. If you don't know if you're listening and you're not in Michigan, this is all Michigan local fields. Local fields are great. I can't really think of any complaints out of a local field that
Outside
are
of
detrimental outside of
who's hosting.
who's hosting.
How they host.
Because, I mean, you've been vocal, and we're not gonna lie. You don't really have your favorites when it comes to NOVA and how they run their rules and regulations. They still run a good event.
Oh, I love
But you have your preferences on how you'd like the rules to be set up. But that's just player by player, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No, I love those guys. They have a great field.
Yeah.
I'd play with them every weekend if I had the time.
Yeah. I would if I
like our
played.
I like our WMIA rule set a little bit more.
Yeah. It's very flexible.
But at the same time, that's not going to necessarily make or break your experience as long as the hosts are enforcing their rules correctly. And they enforce their rules correctly, so it's a good time.
Yeah.
I love playing with those guys. They're great.
It also falls to preference. Like, you can have some people that like, oh, I prefer, I don't remember who it was, but I know someone I played with before when I was like talking to them in staging, they're like, kind of wish we would do more objective-based things, and
Which we do a lot of.
which we do a lot of, but then there's a lot of people that are just like, I just want to go
I want to get there,
team
run and shoot.
deathmatch. Yeah.
I
And
want
like,
the team deathmatch.
like I went to Wastek 2 times, and it was pretty interesting, like having just like the role playing aspect where you like actually have a purpose to do things. But personally, me, I just like running and shooting. That's why the first time we went, we were pretty much we found someone and we kind of killed them. I mean, that was really what it is.
Yeah,
like,
no, we lit them up.
yeah,
Like,
that's
bad
what,
guy,
at the end.
bad guy.
At the end, they're like, let's just have everyone try to fight against these guys. And we all hunkered down for like, what, 5-10
And
minutes?
somehow we still won.
won. And then
If I was just
Well,
5
Skunk
feet
came running
closer,
out and
with
we're
that
like-
missile.
You were what, about 15, 20 feet off with the rocket?
And again, it's
I
like,
didn't
it's
even want to
preference.
attack
And a lot of
you. They were
people
like,
will just
come
like,
over, we're shooting you.
oh, we'll do that, and we'll do also like just fun team deathmatch. And
Shot
like
loaded.
when the fields have like a good range of that, like if you don't want to play that objective, just sit out that game. Like
Yeah.
and as long as you have like a variety.
Yeah. Now, with the local fields, this also includes local fields as businesses, not just the clubs like I run. When it comes to the business aspect, do you feel that there's more responsibility on a business than there is on a local field as a club? Because there is a different dynamic there. There's been a lot of debate. Like, yes. I had one large message board sleuth about, all the coordinators should get together and organize the airsoft stuff so I don't have to decide on whatever. And it's like, well, the club does it whenever they want. A business does it because they have to, because it's a business. You have to play airsoft every single weekend as much as you can. Well, there's Hole in the Wall, Kalamazoo, Riverview Assault now. They're businesses. They can't just bend to the will of, I want to go to an MIA game. There's a lot of and not miss out on every single Riverview Assault game. That's not
most fields on the east side of the state.
Yeah. But with a lot of businesses, most of them are, have specialty locations where they need to carry insurance because they are a business. On top of that, do you feel that there's more responsibility on the local fields owned by a business versus owned by club groups? Because there is a different attitude when it comes to the two. Because like for me, I'm nonprofit. I just collect funds to run the thing. Versus a business who has to pay employees and all this stuff. I luckily have enough volunteers to ref. I don't need employees. Which is saying something, because then we had waste and 50 people showed up and there was only 2 of us. But that's a whole nother thing. What do you think? You think the businesses, because of the way that their attitude is towards how to manage airsoft, is more or less important than the ones for the local fields? Because there's that dynamic of local fields are almost always cheaper.
Or the business, I think.
Yeah, because they're actually delivering a product or a service to you, and it's more of a business transaction. I mean, you're going there to have fun, but they're providing that to you at a cost.
Yeah.
And so there's probably a higher responsibility from them to you to make sure that it's a good experience.
I've seen more parents bringing their kids to the business aspect of it because you've got rules and guidelines, and like it's a set thing. Whereas local fields, it's like you just dropped your kid off, and it's like you have no idea if they're going to wear safety goggles or
right.
They don't,
less.
So you think so? Even though they should be at the same standards, businesses definitely to make sure that they're completely close-knit and tight on everything, because they're more, even though the local fields make up a majority more of than the businesses, because, it's not easy getting into an airsoft business, but they're always going to be the face because they're seen as the official. That's a good thing to think about, actually. Next, you got special locations, which is just the random run-of-the-mill, hey, we found 500 acres, or, hey, this old abandoned factory, or, hey, this old abandoned school, or any number of other things. Yeah, which is why I should have put Blast Camp on that slide.
Should have put Blast Camp on that slide.
Blast Camp's another one, because I wanted to go this year and never got a chance to. I would have, but I had financial stuff. Specialty locations. Do you feel that those locations need to be held to the same standards as maybe a Millston? Because of a lot of the random stuff that can happen. There's a lot of, when you get into buildings, you'll always run into broken concrete, broken glass, rusted metal, things like that. Because airsofters don't really get nice new facilities. It's usually the crap that gets left over by society, which some of us prefer. It's cool.
It adds to it.
Yeah. You feel like you're actually in Fallout. But do you think that they should be held to an even higher standard or do you think that it can actually be run in the same way a local field could?
I think it's more of a safety issue at that point. Like with stuff like that, you need to make sure that it's people want to play there, but you have to make sure it's safe first. Like we had at NIMS, was it like the hole on the 3rd floor? Wasn't there one?
There was there were structural issues that weren't going to have to be, that were fine.
Yeah.
It's just they were not structural issues that you were going to legally be able to turn the place back into a school unless you replaced it.
Right.
So it wasn't that it was unsafe to be in, it was just it was unsafe by regulation of the state. Kind of the same way that if I were to sell my house that's 100 years old, it would be impossible because the electrical that's in it hasn't been updated for the last 30 years. So there's new regulation, therefore it would be technically illegal. Because nobody would buy it in the way that it has to be sold, you know? Because then there's requirements like dimensions and things like that. So that's how it's with NIMS. It's just, if it was to be turned back into a school, certain things would have had to have been changed. Which now got bought by that medical facilities group, so that they're going to convert it, which is fine. Hopefully,
Jokes on them.
hopefully stuff turns into other stuff. I have to show you guys that article. There was a nice little statement in there that kind of pissed me off when I read it, but yeah, so safety, because when it comes to special locations, that's when you start seeing things like emergency medical services stuff, guys who can do that kind of thing. I've noticed there's the chance of falling and tripping and hurting yourself and busting your face or breaking a limb usually is addressed at those locations more than a local field. You don't usually trip over a log outside and destroy yourself or shatter your knee.
And since Sims was a school, it was a pretty nice building.
Yeah.
The only complaint, which is a very, very nitpicky thing, was that a lot of places, if you kneel down, your knee will go down and be and it hurt.
Oh, yeah. That's the nature of...
Go back and cry.
Yeah.
Those integrated knee pads
I like
are
the little
wonderful.
toast there.
Oh, are you missing a knee pad?
Maybe. What color is it?
Tan. I'll show you, because I found one, and I've been meaning to post about it.
It might be mine.
Yeah, I'll bring it from downstairs. And then finally, we have military training bases. And this is like Fort Hood and all those other
I
MTI,
haven't gotten to go to one of those yet.
MUTC, which was fun. You know, do you feel that these locations are actually going to help Airsoft, or do you think it's just cool that people have connections and you get an experience that nobody else gets to have? Do you think they're actually going to help the community, or do you think it's just by circumstance?
Well, I mean, how is something like that not going to help?
Right. Well, I mean, it's because then you got, you know, like the drama that happened with MUTC, or the drama that just happened with what's that one place in Texas? It was it's where Milsom West and Third Coast were hosting an event. They closed it down for a 5-year contract, and then for some reason the dumbass Airsoft community, you monsters, start putting hate comments about the facility, and it's like, it's a military base. It's for military stuff. Of course it takes preference, you ass. So, you know what I mean? When it comes to that stuff, is it the community drives the negativity from that kind of thing?
Oh,
is absolute, or do you feel, because we always have, you know, a lot of guys have negative comments who are military, who just hate on Airsoft because they treat it the BB Warrior stuff. And
well, the BB Warrior does it to himself.
Yes.
One. And I don't know, I think a lot of people have this really high and mighty, shiny view of the military and all things included, and then they get to an actual military training facility and they see how worn and used everything is, and it's not as shiny and awesome and awe-inspiring as they thought it would be from the video games or the movies.
yeah.
And they kind of rag on it because they had this massive misconception of what real military facilities are like.
Yeah. What are the odds that the places that they're training in look exactly like the places they'd be working?
No, it's not. It's not Fort Bragg. You're not, and so you go to Fort Bragg and you are at the. We'll use Quantico and Fort Bragg as an example, and you're at the FBI training site, or where the SF does a lot of their training in Bragg with the 82nd, or because the 82nd's out of there too, I believe. But you're on like an SF training site that's like for SF only. You're in Quantico and you're at the FBI training site. They're not going to be highbrow, brand new, painted, sidewalks are perfect, flat screens everywhere. There's going to be busted out windows. There's going to be a pile of doors off to the side because they keep blowing them up and kicking them down. And I mean, it's abused
Mm-hmm.
because they use it the way it's designed to be used. And that's what people don't get. Is it's not like the shoot houses in Call of Duty that you run into and it looks all picturesque like, was it Nuketown?
Yeah.
It's not like that.
No.
The real Nuketown that they built still doesn't look like that because it was used once.
Looks like shit.
And now it looks like it was actually used.
Yeah.
Which I think looks better. So I think a lot of it's just misconceptions.
Okay.
I mean, if you're fighting like
way
it's a war
too
zone,
high at standards.
right? If you're fighting a millstone that's supposed to be a war zone, it's gonna look like shit, and you should expect that.
Yeah.
Like,
That's part of the thing, like with MUTC is, I don't want to fight on a perfect brand new. I want to fight with something, shit's blown up,
That's
buildings are.
that way you can just not give a fuck and not worry about breaking something.
That's why I love that parking garage that we were in.
Because you could just kick the fucking mirrors out the cars.
Well, there's that, and you can change the levels. It was
yeah.
It was literally build-a-blocks with a parking garage. They could knock a level down. They could put the level back up. They could take an entire level out. They could add another level. They could add and remove stairs. I mean, it was literally Legos. It was life-size Legos for that thing, and they had a few of them, and each one was different. I don't know. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
And they were like upside-down cars and crushed cars, and it was sweet.
Yeah.
That was so much cooler than a perfect picturesque parking garage. That's boring.
Yeah.
I'll go to the mall if I want to look at that. I don't.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know. Some of those malls that have been closed down around the east side.
No, the one that Lion Claws was using, that one definitely got closed down. So
Yeah.
sucks. But
Fuck.
That's what the Hewlett Packard plant is for.
Yeah.
Or not the Hewlett Packard plant. What the hell am I talking about? Just the Packard plant. It's definitely not an old computer
I
plant.
was gonna say, HP.
Yeah.
HP made cars back in the 30s.
Still got computers on my mind from a previous conversation.
Yeah. So next subject is retailers. We got local, national, and international.
Overpriced.
Well, the international one's is unique, as well as the local. So we have a local retailer who's not.
A
I don't.
couple of them.
Yeah, one of them I don't think actually is a local. Should be considered local retail because I think he actually just buys the guns and then charges the up cost because he just doesn't have the bulk purchasers warehouse.
Talking about Young's?
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't have enough business to justify buying bulk orders.
Yeah, and then people shit on his prices. I'm like, well, it's designed that way. If you didn't understand that, then
if people bought more, he could actually lower his prices. He can afford to lower his prices. He literally cannot afford to lower his prices. He'd be losing money like crazy.
So local retailers, do you feel that those guys? I'm trying to think of how to phrase this. Do you think that they fall into certain caveats because most of the time, most local retailers only go for brands like Vulcan because it was paintball, or they go Tippmann because it was paintball. Most of the time, it's paintball stores converting over into Airsoft because of the diversity of product. Because you don't see, and then you have a few people who know about G&G, but even Kazoo switched to Vulcan because they could.
Cheaper.
Sort of. Yeah, they're about priced the same, honestly. But I mean, I don't know what it is on the manufacturer. I could ask. I could actually find out what the manufacturer's bulk pricing is.
They'd probably be cheaper for Vulcan,
But
especially with the latest.
do you think that the local retailers aren't diverse enough, or do you feel that the airsoft community, at least for our state, let's leave it at our state, is not large enough to support a variety of products?
I don't think it's large enough.
Or do you think that the airsoft industry just doesn't give a damn to try to make more stores? Because I mean,
It's
e-bike and Airsoft GI, they've made multiple. Well, at least Airsoft GI has made two more locations in the last 2 years.
but think about how much money they have coming in,
Right.
and
And
they
also
cover
think
the
about-
entire country.
Right.
Yeah.
Wherein all the local guys, outside of some very successful ones such as Amped and Junkies and
Yes.
MIR and a few of the others that are all still in our neck of the woods, they are some of the few exceptions, but the rest, I mean, it's hard to compete with those online stores.
Yeah, because like they might have physical stores, sure, but a bulk of their money comes from online,
In vast
and
majority.
so you gotta match that. Otherwise, you're just gonna get left behind because everywhere else is gonna have a better price than you, and these guys down in California or Virginia are gonna have more reach because they can afford to sell them for cheaper.
So you usually see local guys doing the parts and accessories,
Yeah.
equipment, gear.
Because that's more generic and can be easily.
Yeah, well, people are always going to need that, like batteries, motors, barrels, hop-up things. Like everyone's always going to need those. Right. It's easier to go to your local store than order one and wait a few days. You can just literally go and do it the same day.
Right.
No, the major one with international is actually importing. I don't consider their pricing anything because it's international, so they have to kind of compensate.
Yeah.
But would you always advise someone that if you can get the gun in this country, you should order it from this country? Not because of just supporting America, because America's awesome.
Less chance of something going wrong in shipping.
Has everyone had a nightmare experience, I think, by now, of international shipping in some form or manner?
When I got something from Russia, I sure did.
I still haven't. I've been lucky, though.
Well, I mean, that hop system is technically overseas.
Yeah. No, hop system is out west. Yes. That's just local. I'm just that's for me. I completely forgot about them.
Well, yeah.
So they have like $200 to buy, and then I haven't done anything with. So that's just on me. I totally forgot.
Okay.
But I mean,
because I've ordered parts from China, and it takes.
I usually like optics and a couple parts.
Yeah.
Like it takes a while, but I've never had an issue with customs. Some people have had nightmare issues with customs. I've never ordered a gun from overseas, which I wouldn't really want to.
Unless you were after something very specific.
Yeah, like some of those shitty, what was it, SAI? Salient Arms. Bullshit.
I like that the Airsoft. I like that that's like an elite brand for custom guns in the real world.
In real life?
And the Airsoft convention, Airsoft version is god awful.
Oh, don't worry. The reliability of the Airsoft ones is the exact same as the real ones.
Oh, really?
Oh, is it?
It's basically the glorious high point of the...
I mean, they're made with really, really high-end parts, but they're not designed well. Take a Salient Arms weapon, handgun, rifle, whatever, and bring it to a gunsmith, and they will either turn you away or charge you a shit ton of money because parts are going to break when they're trying to take it apart, or they're going to have to beat the shit out of it to take it apart because it's such a pain in the ass to work on. Like they're not. Yeah, they're shogun. They're not put together well at all. They're showy guns. They're built to look pretty. They're not built to perform pretty.
Yeah.
I would never buy a Salient Arms ever. Not in a million years. Sorry. Buy Aero Precision. Honestly, if you're willing to spend that kind of money, because it's still going to be cheaper, it's going to outperform the shit out of it. Even like Noveski. Noveski's overpriced too. They make really good stuff, but you can build a rifle that's twice as good for half the price. But that's all I'm saying.
Kind of ventured into the manufacturers.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, one last thing on the national is most of the national retailers will support and provide sponsorship for teams.
Teams and like events.
Events, yeah, because e-bike does a lot of their own Milsim specialty event things that they like to do. Most of it's California, because that's where they're from.
A lot of the bigger local companies are starting to do it too. So like Amped and Junkies and MIR, they
Wolverine.
Yeah, Wolverine's huge. Way more so than Polar Star, I think. I think Wolverine's got a bigger public presence than Polar Star does.
Do you think the retailers are actually doing enough to just more than just slapping their name on a team and saying we support this group? Or do you think it's the team's responsibility to be promoting?
A lot of it's the team.
So you think it's probably the community? Because I know plenty of teams who say Amped or say Airsoft Junkies. I've met them, and I've never heard them once talk about their sponsorship or the people that support them. It kind of drives me up the wall.
I know some of the more local guys, they're going to be a bit easier to work with. I've heard, and I don't know anybody personally, but just reading stuff on some of Facebook and some of the forums is e-bike's kind of a nightmare to be a sponsor. But I don't know, they're an interesting company. The only reason they're as successful as they are is because they're the largest importer. They hold that whole corner knocked down.
Yeah,
basically, they have that entire import market locked down.
Yeah. No, I was curious about it because it's an interesting subject. You see people, and I'm pretty sure everyone thinks about the sponsor before they think about the team. Oh, look at those Amped guys. Look at those e-bike guys. Oh, you're sponsored by whatever, and they don't even. Say Cerberus was sponsored by, I always run the joke, Flex Tape. Say we're sponsored by Flex Tape. Everyone would think those are the flex tape guys, not the Cerberus Tactical. You know what I mean? So I think it's good to point out the fact that the teams really need to be promoting more that if you're getting sponsored, you should be talking about it, you know, and not bragging, but talking about, hey, this is who we are, and this is who helped us get to where we were. And I don't say that enough, in my opinion. But next is the manufacturers, like we were talking about. I got trends, the low tier and the high tier of guns and licensing. With trends, we've seen how the airsoft community goes through the next all-inclusive answer to the problem that people are dealing with. What was the thing we started off with? It was before our hops. It was
Flat out.
Even before that, there was what was that other trendy thing that people? It was man, what was it? It was hell. Even the Pro-Win. I remember when the Pro-Win was a trendy thing and it wasn't actually critically acclaimed. Where people were just dropping in Pro-Wins and then their gun wouldn't work and then people would just shit on the Pro-Win and then...
Which for a base hop unit with no modifications done, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
If it works with your setup.
Yeah, it works with it.
Yeah.
Really,
Yeah, you want to tip, it all works with all GMP.
So
there's one brand.
JG. You just need to modify
JG brand works?
Everything works with JG.
Because JG is...
What?
I love JG.
Bottom of the barrel, though.
That's how I got started, but it is... That and Du Bois are like the two biggest bottom of the barrel brands.
That's
that
where people
everybody,
start.
for everybody, you need to start.
Echo 1 too, but they kind of evolve.
Echo 1's, I would say Echo 1's lower mid tier.
Yeah,
I'd say mid, like center of the mid tier.
It's because of the Jag Arms and the Stag Arms licensing and stuff that they were doing that they've progressed more because they've been buying out more licenses.
Yeah.
So they have to. But
I'd say G&G's really moved up in the world, though.
do you think that with the trends that people are doing, like, I mean, the last one that was cool was Subaru hopping, S-hopping, making your own custom patch with Subaru rubber that you can get from any Myers or Walmart.
I've heard that one. It's been a while. I haven't really been monitoring
It's
stuff in a while.
Yeah, I know. I'm in the now.
Is it fact or fad?
Yeah, and that's. Do you feel right, exactly? Do you think that these trends with how people want, like the flat triggers? Remember when flat triggers were just a freaking novelty? Oh my god, look how cool my gun looks! And then, oh yeah, remember you get the distribution of pressure across your finger on this gun that has no recoil or anything really matters.
I love mentioning that.
You know, it should be purely style. I mean, if there was a trigger that had the proper arm and dimensions that it worked in all brands, that would be cool.
I should
But
try
there
the
isn't.
Crytek one in some of my other guns. See how well that works.
Yeah, I mean,
So I did buy the Crytek one for my Crytek.
true. So is it, like
Give it a shot.
I use a standard trigger.
I
You know,
Both mine have straight triggers, but that's because I got the retro arms, the first gen.
when it actually worked.
When it actually worked, I did modify it a little bit because that's before I used it in the Spectre. Because you put it in the Spectre, it's fine. But like with the standard trigger contacts, it'll take a little kind of shimmying to get it to work right. But at that point, I figured when I did that, even with the standard trigger contacts, I can pull my trigger faster because there's not that much concave to it, so it's pulling the trigger less distance. And it's not like, hey, I can do that quick. So then both my guns have. My other one is like a J type, so it's straight and kind of curved a little bit. But I just like not really because it looks, just because I just like how it feels.
I literally just remembered the other one was Honey Badger builds. Everybody and their mother was building an integrally suppressed system.
Even you did it.
An integrated suppressor.
Yeah,
you're
I have
M16.
mine.
Yeah, I did it
switched
because it
my
was
other
fun.
M4 over to
It actually looks pretty good.
Doing it ironically, she's still doing
It
it.
looks
does
good.
look
Carbon fiber with the Daniel Defense rail.
It does look good. That's your best M4.
If you notice, you go onto e-bike and always the new arrival is pretty much what the community is obsessed with the next thing. Because our hops, sure, they were fine, but then give it a few months and now you can buy pre-R hop. Well, you can buy pre-R hop barrels
M-Lock
from what's that?
what I said.
Yeah, Umbrella Armories. So now they're mass producing our hops, you know, and that's fine and all. but it defines in the way that the manufacturers are going to actually go. Sometimes the manufacturers do whatever the fuck they want. We're just like, what the fuck is this?
Double barrel pistols.
Yeah, like the double barrel 1911s by Armor Works.
Wow.
Killing yourself.
Okay, sure.
I would buy one of those.
That had those at Broken Art or Broken Dagger, and I was just looking at it
that's
like,
one of those why not?
I just really wanted to hold it. I don't want one at all.
Exactly.
I just wanted to feel it.
They did a double barrel Makarov, and I wanted to kill myself.
So
I would get.
do you feel that the trendiness of how the airsoft community runs helps manufacturers inspire them to keep going, or do you think it holds them back by wasting money on things that don't matter?
Well, don't matter, but if they put it towards trends, it's just what's going to sell because people are like, oh, that's what's in now, so I'm going to buy that because they're making it.
Because I mean, look at what G&G did. They went from a low, middle tier, high, lower tier platform that everybody went to. All of a sudden, their latest platform was phenomenal. And I still don't think I've heard any real major complaints about the new G&G platforms. Either the full metal one, or even their polymer one. Just they've updated it.
They have the new electronic stuff in their earbuds and their stand combat machines now.
Yeah, well, I've had problems with the electrical components, but I think that's just because of people's inability to use their own equipment at times.
That's almost all that comes down to.
Yeah. But no, I wanted to ask about that. That was a very interesting concept to think about. And then you got low tier versus the high tier. So you have really, really expensive brands. Just use the M4 platform. You got the low tier, which is G&G, and then you got the super, super high tier, which is fucking, I mean, you can name it KWA, Crytek.
That's what is that? That's that electronic recoiling shell ejecting thing from Korea that comes.
Oh, the D-ball
gun.
Yeah, that's more than that.
Or the DOS.
Yeah, it's like $2,000, $2,500. It comes like in a box, all torn apart, and you have to assemble it and put the bolt
do you
together.
know the AAF one?
Isn't that the thing that Brain
Is that the one I'm thinking of?
No, there's another one. It's American based.
I haven't heard of this one.
Yeah, no, we're actually me and Torin are talking with them. Actually.
Trying to see if they can send you one to
send us one, or just
demo,
like money
or
and
test
stuff,
or
and see what their goals are and things like that. Theirs is American based, and I think they saved $1,000, but that's still $1,500.
What the?
Yeah, the Korean.
But at least it uses every mag.
SPD.
Yeah, and yours is a real sword.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you didn't just take a real SPD.
A real sword that's HPA.
I have to find one first.
Yeah. So
it says something. If I
low tier versus high tier.
HPA,
do you feel
Dragunov costs less?
That a lot of manufacturers are producing a lot more high tier rifles that are over $200? Do you feel that this is preventing the airsoft community from growing because of the cost that it's taking to play?
Yes, because a lot of people got in with combat machines and they're like $100, $150.
$150.
Yeah. And like people like, oh, this is a cheap gun that performs well, and like if they're upgrading to like, oh, but this one performs even better than that, but it costs so much more, then
once you get a taste of performance, you want more.
Then that's like, Mom, get me this for Christmas thing.
Because I made the video about why guns are over $300, you know, and I explained it why, and here's what you could do and what it takes to actually improve these guns, because the industry is not there to make high-end cheap guns.
Like, you know, my black and tan one, that was an original JG M4 Enhanced. There's only 2 parts from that original gun, the buffer tube and the outer barrel. That's the only parts from the stock gun that are still in there. And that's a cheap gun where I just upgraded the crap out of it.
Yeah. And you were willing to do that, because not everybody's willing to do that. They'd rather have an awesome gun.
Because I learned how to do it. Well, that's what it interested in.
But you do feel that with the way that the trends have been going with how gun manufacturers are producing more and more high-end, even get rid of the whole idea of key mod or M-lock. The design's there, but you can see plastic key mod, you know. Producing and selling guns that are $200, $250, you do feel has been kind of a detriment on the airsoft community, because not everybody can afford a lot of this stuff.
And airsoft is an expensive hobby.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, gun, battery, gear, eye protection, whatnot, ammo. And
that's
really no hobby is cheap.
Yeah.
If you think about it. But.
No, that's...
Just write it off on your taxes. It'll be fine.
Yeah, well, I mean, if I ever had a business license about it, which you never know, might do sometime.
Write it off on your taxes anyway. It's a hobby and it costs you $3,000. Which, let's be honest, we've all probably spent more than that on our shit.
Not probably. We have all spent more than that.
And then finally, with yeah,
No, we don't.
It wasn't even.
We're not even. We're not even gonna go there.
yeah. And then finally is for manufacturers is licensing. Do you feel that? I mean, they just released only just a short time ago with the Glocks, officially licensed Glocks, which is wonderful because then we definitely will have them instead of short runs and then nasty grams to make them disappear.
Yeah. It's cool, but I mean,
Because then you
I
got
think the licensing and trademarks and stuff are more nitpicky things
I can
for
get that.
collectors or
I could
ones who actually
That
really
sounds
look for that in a gun. But like, I remember seeing, I think the YouTube channel is Crazy NC Man.
oh yeah,
He did a video a while back. I don't remember the brand of it, but it was a Glock variant
Why?
where it just had the GL,
So why not?
but not the rest
Thing
because
right
obviously
there.
the license wasn't there. But I mean,
I can do
still,
that.
like people liked it, and I watched his review on the ACP that I had, and he said it's a good gun, but you should stay away from it because because you can't call it a Glock, you can't call it, or they had to call it a G series or something like that.
yeah.
Because people are like, oh, you shouldn't get this gun because it's too close to the real one, and people are gonna get mad at you or something like that. And I mean, that's just really, I think, the type of player you are, or like what kind of guns you look for. But
Actually, Hunter,
Mm.
I know that you have your MP7,
Mhm.
and yours is for KWA, right?
Mhm.
And I think it's still actually licensed by H&K.
Oh my guns are licensed by HK.
That's
416,
hilarious.
475, my
HK
MP7, my
G28.
45 tactical.
Do you feel that gun costed how much for an MP7? Just the gun, not your bolt carriers.
I don't know.
How much did it cost? Just say it. Trust me. Tucker's in more hot water than you are.
Yeah.
Huh?
$255 for the MP7. It's like 400 and I want to say 50 or 60 for the 417. And for my handgun, it was like 160.
Okay. So do you feel that the licensing, the decals, improved the performance of your gun?
Tenfold.
It's imprinted in the receiver. That's less weight.
You guys haven't noticed? What the
Just
fuck?
ask the kid
No, I
that
haven't.
tested it
Because I don't
out.
see you play as much as me.
Yeah, imprinted in the receiver. That's less weight on the gun.
I always wonder whether or not the licensing cost, because that's the thing.
Oh, the
Is
licensing absolutely costs more just to have it on the gun because you know that, you know.
Because is that a debt? Is it bad that the airsoft community isn't? It's hard to say because it's all copyrighted information. It's all copyrighted designs. And what point are you allowed to go beyond that? Because like you get lucky when you get the 1911. I think Colt really didn't give a fuck.
No.
They just their designs like open beta basically, so they just anybody and everybody could build the 1911 and they didn't really care. But then you got guys, especially H&K, want all of their products licensed and they know who the OEM and all this crap is. Do you feel that can actually is harming the airsoft community, at least from the benefit of the airsofter, not the gun world? Because in the gun world, airsoft can be considered more harmful just because of kids holding guns and shooting at each other. We have to figure out how to smooth over that caveat to make it more of a sport than it is violence, you know, which is dumb because football is just as violent and people actually get hurt and they proved it.
I'm gonna say no just for the simple fact, you know, people are gonna basically make something that is very similar. Now, I will pay that extra $1
Mhm.
for the simple fact I like the realism in airsoft. That's why I play airsoft over paintball.
Yeah.
But you know, there's gonna be people who like with the 416.
Mhm.
They're gonna make their version of a 416. It looks very
Yeah,
similar.
JG does.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the P416 or the
Yeah, they're gonna make their
Just
own
put a
damn
letter in front of it, or just,
damn modification, or they'll make the same gun and call it something else.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's not. It's just a matter of if you want to pay that extra money for it.
Same thing with Magpul. Like, yeah.
Oh,
Oh, I know
Yeah,
how
shit
expensive
ton
my
of
Magpul
clones.
M4 is.
All my Magpul furniture is clones because I'm not going to pay
hell no.
$60 for something that works and functions and looks
See, mine's
the
the
same.
PTS stuff, which is a third the cost. You know,
Yeah,
it's still technically licensed properly, but it's not cheap. You know.
Yeah, I don't need it to be expensive. Like in Mario, you remember him saying like he would buy real steel optics for his guns. His optics would cost more than his gun.
Yeah.
Buy like a $400 ACOG. Stuff like that. I mean, that's your thing. That's, again, you said realism, but from my standpoint, as long as it looks how I want it to look and functions how I do, I'd rather pay like I think it's the CTR stock.
Yep.
I paid $16, and they retail for Magpul for like $60.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I got a real one and it cost so much.
Yeah.
But that's for my actual ARs.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks for watching part 2 of this podcast. Please click the link to check out part 3.